Welcome everyone to this mini-series about agentic engineering, specifically with Svelte. Now, during the course of this series, we're going to build this application here, which is basically a news aggregator where you can add sources and then the AI will visit your sources, extrapolate the links, create a quick link and create a newsletter-like page just for you. Now, this is not really relevant for what I was about to say. The point is that we're going to build a real application and we're going to build it with the Agentic engineering framework, which basically means that we are not just vibe coding this application. We are going to use AI as much as possible to boost our productivity and also to show you how to use it with Svelte. But the important bit is that we do deeply care about code in this case. So we're not just going to build the application, we're going to build all sorts of systems around the application to keep the agent in check and make sure that we ship quality code. Now, before we begin, a small presentation is due. Who am I? I am Paolo Ricciuti. I lead the Svelte team at Mainmatter, which is an engineering consultancy that focuses on Ember, Rust, and Svelte. And we help our client through their toughest challenges with those technologies, or we help them to adopt the technology in the first place. Now, all the engineering techniques that we're going to use during this series are not new. Those are engineering techniques that we use with our clients since long before AI was even a thing. And that's why we know how to use them. We helped a lot of clients to set everything in place so that their engineer could ship code faster without compromising on the quality of the code. And that's basically the same thing that we are doing nowadays with our agents. Now, in this episode, we're gonna just create the project, bootstrap it with the SV CLI, talk about what we're gonna build more in detail, and then in the next episode, we're gonna start working on our harness. So sit down and enjoy the view. We're gonna build something that is, again, like we want to build a complex project because we want to actually put something to the test. Like we want to see how effectively we can use AI and we want to build a complex project for it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build an app that has a login with such a login too. So like it will be authenticated. We will have a database in the back. And what we will build is something that looks kind of like this. So you have your newsletter aggregator. And so basically we will use AI to visit all your sources and extract all the relevant links, summarize them, and then propose basically a personalized newsletter just for you. And you can then read the summary, and if you're interested, you can just click it and we will open in a new page and you can actually read the article. And as you can see, like you can add a source, and so like you will go into like this source management, which is more of a CRUD operation, but basically what you can do is literally add whatever link you want that has a bunch of news. Like you can follow a Reddit, for example, the Svelte Reddit. You can follow a specific blog, like the Svelte blog or the Mainmatter blog. Or you can follow a specific newsletter, like Syntax FM, Snackpack. You can add all of these sources, and the goal is that basically every day we visit your sources, and if there are any new news that we didn't actually extract already, we're gonna build for you your today's news. So that's the idea of the application, but obviously like a whole application is not just the front facing of the application, it's not just what you interact with, but it's also all the rest. So we're gonna add automated testing that the AI can use to figure out if it's doing a good job. We are adding observability so that we can even use AI to fix our problems if we have any problems in production. We are gonna add automated PR reviews. So we're gonna use AI as a general colleague to next to our work. So I'm very excited. And so first thing first, like you may ask, like why even use AI for this? And I would say that, like, let's be honest, like AI is a productivity multiplier. So AI will actually help you ship faster. Like, I think it's a given nowadays. But to do it properly, like if you want to just vibe code your project, I've done it a lot of times, it's fine. You can just spin up Claude, do this, and it will build your project, and that's it. But if you want to build it and if you want to use AI in a serious project, then the story is a bit different. You need to build all sorts of systems around everything. And so let's jump right into it. I'm not even touching anything yet, but this is your first agentic engineering lesson. Now, we're gonna set up the project, as I've said, so that basically we will do everything through AI. So like the goal of this project is not only to create a news aggregator, but also to teach you how to build a system around your agent so that you can automate most of the coding. So in the end goal of this project is also to build it in a way that you can prompt everything. But you don't have to use AI for everything. Like, a good engineer is actually able to figure out what is worth using AI for and what is not worth using AI for. We are in a greenfield project, so we don't even have the folder where we're gonna work in. And we could create the folder and launch our agent and say, hey, please go ahead and build a Svelte GitHub for me. But there is a better solution. Svelte already ships with the very powerful SV CLI. The SV CLI is basically built to remove boilerplate for you or your agent. And the point is that it doesn't make sense for an agent to build a project from the ground up when you can just create the project with the SV CLI and then start using the agent to act on the project, because the basic of a Svelte Kit application will always be the same. And there are also a lot of configuration files like ESLint, Prettier, and stuff like that, that the AI might get wrong, or even if it doesn't get it wrong, it's still a lot of wasted tokens. So like, that's the first lesson for you. So let's start with pnpm dlx SV create, and let's create in news aggregator. We don't want the Svelte demo because it has a lot of code that we just need to delete. The Svelte library, we are not building a library, so Svelte minimal is good. Do you want to add type checking with TypeScript? TypeScript is one of the guardrails that you want to add to your project. The reason is that depending on which client you are using, they might have LSP configuration so that they can talk directly with TypeScript to get information about the current file. And that's good because if the agent introduces a type error, the TypeScript syntax, the TypeScript LSP will actually send that information to the agent, and the agent can then fix it. You could use JavaScript with JSDoc comment, but to be fair, I will not recommend it. Svelte is using JavaScript with JSDoc comment because we are building a library. So we are building a library and we want to ship the same code that we work on, and that's why we choose to use JSDoc. If you're building an application, you don't need to debug your application in another person's computer. So yeah, you can just use TypeScript, especially because obviously agents have much better understanding of TypeScript rather than JavaScript with JSDoc. They do know JavaScript with JSDoc, to be fair, but TypeScript for application is the better choice. And obviously, now let's add a bunch of extra stuff that will help our agent to stay in check. Specifically, prettier. So when agents write to a file, they will generally do it in their own style. So if you add prettier, you can just format their code later and you will have a consistent format in your code base. So that's good. ESLint is something that is very similar to TypeScript in the sense that it has a series of rules that will yell at you the moment you do stuff that are not exactly how you want it to be. So like, for example, there is an ESLint rule to use const whenever possible. So like if you're not reassigning a variable, you don't use let, you use a const. Those are small little things. Sometimes those are just aesthetic things. Sometimes those are actually stuff that can help you prevent bugs. For example, there is an ESLint rule that yells at you if you don't await a promise. So it is making you be conscious about the fact that if you want to not await a promise, you will need to either ESLint ignore that line or add a void before the promise. And so all these sort of things, again, are all guardrails for your agent. And the nice thing about ESLint is that you can write your own rules. And that's very important because if you notice that the agent does the same error over and over again, and you want to prevent it, you can use a ESLint rule, a custom build ESLint rule, to actually force the agent to not have that behavior. So that's very interesting. vtest, it's another, and also Playwright. vtest and Playwright, these are the testing frameworks. As I've said, one of the way you can keep your agent in check is you can let the agent write your test, or you can write them yourself. But the point is, with the agents, there's been a resurgence of TDD, which is test-driven development. Because with TDD, basically what you can do is that you specify through a test how you want your code to behave. And once you have the test and it's failing, you know that if you fix that test, so if you make it pass, the implementation should be coherent, at least. So we definitely want to add vtest and Playwright. We could add Tailwind CSS. To be fair, I found that most agents actually prefer to write pure CSS, especially in Svelte, and I like that too. I'm not a Tailwind hater. I like Tailwind. I think it has its own advantages, but I don't dislike a pure CSS stuff. And that will be just an extra distraction. So let's not add Tailwind. We're gonna take a look at the deployment later. So like for the moment, we don't care about the SvelteKit adapter. Generally, I always add the devtools.json. This is just a small plugin that will allow me to open the console inside Chrome without getting a warning. Because whenever you are on localhost and you open the DevTools, Chrome will actually make a request for a specific file that will allow you to see your files and edit your files directly from the browser console. And if this file is not there, it will show a warning, and I don't want that. We will need a database, so we're going to use Drizzle, and we will need authentication, so we're going to use BetterOut. So these things are basically fully fledged features that you don't have to build. So like an ORM and an out library are things that will handle our authentication and database, and we don't have to build it because there is already a template for Svelte that includes BetterOut. So this will both help the agent to know which kind of authentication library we want to use without us having to tell, but also it will give the agent, like, again, a framework to build around your authentication. We don't need MD-SVEX. We don't need internationalization. We could use Storybook. Storybook is a very good story for agents. They have their own MCP server, and you can use their MCP server to basically allow the agent to see your own components. Now, we don't really need Storybook in this project because we likely will not have as many components, so we can probably get around without it. But I definitely recommend, like, if you're building a project that when there is a bigger design system, definitely check out Storybook. And we're not gonna add this Svelte MCP. Now, you might think I'm crazy because why should I not add the Svelte MCP if it's basically the purpose of this video? But the reality is that I want you to see how coding without the MCP looks like, and I want you to see like what adding the MCP gives you, and I want to talk about the various parts of the MCP. So we're going to talk about this in the next episode. And so for the moment, we're not going to add it. And this will also show you how to add the MCP once you have, once in the future you want to add the MCP to your own project. So let's go ahead. We're going to answer a few more questions like unit testing or component testing. In this case, we probably want to have both because, again, we're going to use these unit testing for like small utilities. If you're going to build some utilities, we want to unit test them. If you're going to build some component, we want to component test them. So let's add both. This is asking us what kind of database we want to use. Personally, I am a huge fan of SQLite, but because this will make local development very easy, but also because like it's very fast, it's very slim, and I can use it for testing, especially. So like during test, I can set up my SQLite so that each test gets its own SQLite version, and it will be much nicer to build. And so let's select SQLite. We're probably going to use Turso because I don't know where we're going to deploy, but it's nice to have, like, Turso is a very popular hosted platform for SQLite, so let's use Turso. For better out, we want both GitHub OAuth and email and password. We're going to change Google or like GitHub OAuth with Google OAuth, but again, this way we already have like some code that the agent can just change, and that's nice. We can install with pnpm, and that's it. Now we have to do a few more steps. We need to cd into this news aggregator, and then we need to do pnpm auth schema. So this will migrate our authentication schema with the better out CLI, and so this will generate our auth schema for us. We can do pnpm db push to actually create our local SQLite. So this also has been applied, and now we can actually explore this code. So like as you can see, like most configuration objects are not that complex. Like if you take a look at the Svelte config, it's pretty easy. An agent could have probably written this very easily, but why risk it and why spend tokens when you can just have a CLI that does it for you? The Vite config is actually quite involved, especially because there is this browser like for component testing and normal testing, so it's actually quite involved. The playwright config is probably fine for the moment. Yeah, and we have the drizzle config, the ESLint config. We have our .env here. We are probably gonna change some of this. Like we need to change the GitHub client ID and the GitHub client secret. We're gonna do it in a later episode. And we have our end-to-end test with Playwright. We have our hooks.server.ts for handling the sessions. Right now, the demo, which is what the Better Out CLI generated, is actually using load function and form actions. We want to use the latest and greatest from Svelte, so we definitely gonna change this to use remote functions. But like it's better like to have at least like something to work on. Yeah, so I think that's it for like the first episode. We are gonna explore in the next episode. We are gonna set up our agent. So we're gonna say we're gonna add the MCP. We're gonna set up and choose our agents. I'm gonna also like talk about what's my personal preference in terms of what's my daily driver to build with AI, and tune in for the next episode. And don't forget, if you have any question about the project or in general, if you need any help with your Svelte project, with your AI project, don't forget to visit mainmatter.com to learn more about Mainmatter and how we can help you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.